about that. I like that. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome.
So wonderful.
Awesome. So as
Beauty
I
goddess.
mentioned, she's like the sunshine. As I mentioned, she is a spoken word artist.
Yeah. So I actually started doing spoken word not too long ago. So I was kind of in the dark as well, because I didn't grow up in church. They didn't have the poetry or spoken word. Yeah. So I saw like rappers and artists, and I would see this certain spoken word artist, Genetics. Have you heard of her? Have y'all heard of Genetics? Oh my God, her and Ezekiel. Yes. And I was like, oh my God, they are like sharing the gospel, and it's like, it was so effective and through poetry. So I kind of fell in love with that, and I started doing poetry first, which was just they were kind of like love letters from God, and I was just kind of just writing out and sharing. But I ended up being asked to actually share at an event, and I was so afraid, and I wasn't quite sure what to do or how to perform. But I found out that just me sharing and like presenting in a way that was the way that God put in my heart, and the way that was effective for people to be able to understand, that really made it really enjoyable for me.
We were talking about the difference between, just doing something that's faith-based and considering yourself a gospel entertainer. Mm-hmm. And so how do you see yourself fitting? Do you consider yourself a gospel spoken word artist, or how does that come across with your message? You know what?
I do actually. To a certain extent, well, because in my poetry, everything that I write is normally uplifting and encouraging. And at first, like I said, it started out with like love notes from God. Mm-hmm. I would just be out and like out in the woods meditating or something, and he'd just start speaking to me. And even if my poem started out as like a woe is me, like, oh my gosh, I'm having a hard time, it always ended up reverting and turning into a positive message of God reassuring me that he is in control. So in all of my poems, it started to be, they're always uplifting, encouraging, and always had a message, and God as the forefront. So I would say that, yes, it is all the gospel of Jesus Christ is in my poetry. So I would probably label myself as a gospel artist.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the whole look, the hair, the name, put that all together for us. What does that mean?
All together. So I go by Priscilla Renee, which is my first and my middle name. Mm-hmm. Priscilla is an ancient name, like ancient prophet, I believe it means, and Renee means rebirth. Okay. And so when I was writing my poetry, I'm like, I need a name to go off of, and I couldn't come up with anything, but I'm like, I already have a name that God gave me, which is Priscilla Renee. But then I started thinking about the certain process that I've been going through. Mm-hmm. And it's funny you mentioned, because my hair, I actually am really like fascinated with eagles. And you know how eagles, they actually go through a certain stage where they actually they go through like a rebuilding process where they pluck out their feathers and they kind of go into like a hibernation phase, right? Yeah. And to, be rejuvenated and to, reprocess everything. So I kind of decided to go through that at the beginning of this year. So I cut my hair off, and I try to have the resemblance of an eagle to a certain extent. I don't know, does it kind of work?
The flyest eagle I've ever seen. No pun intended.
I love that.
Flyest eagle.
We're gonna have to write about that. Flyest eagle. Yeah. But yeah, I definitely decided to go into this process of a rebirthing process. Mm-hmm. So I actually decided I'm probably going to change my name instead of Priscilla Renee to Rebirth, and just keep it that way. Yeah.
You're talking about poetry, so is that the same thing? Is there a slight difference?
I feel like the difference, I believe, is just the presentation of it. Because a lot of people, you can write poetry and write what's on your heart, and it can be in different formats and rhyme in different ways. But spoken word, in my understanding, is just the way that you present it orally.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So poetry is more of the noun, spoken word is the verb.
There you go.
Mm-hmm. Nice way to put it.
Y'all can use that.
Snaps to her, right? Yes, essence. That's interesting. I actually started out performing in lounges, lounges and clubs. And I didn't start performing in churches until a little while later. I was actually asked by Al to perform at church at your church. Victorious Praise. Victorious Praise. Yes. But that was the first time. Yeah, shout out to Victoria's Party. I had just finished asking God what it was that He wanted me to do. And I'm like, okay, I know I'm here to love and I'm here to share, but how? And when I got to this event, my friend said, are you going to perform? And I was like, perform what? He's like, you sing it at work all the time. And I'm like, oh, I don't sing. And God put it on my heart really heavy, like, to do a poem that I had. And He kept saying today, and the poem was called Today. And He's like, today, today, today. And I'm like, I'll do it another time. He's like, today, today, today. And I realized, like, if I had not have done it that day, I probably wouldn't be doing poetry at all. You know, that was like that window of opportunity when God said, okay, I'm opening this door. You need to just go forward and do it, you know? So I performed at this lounge, and then I started going every month that they would have the event. And it got to where the host introduced me one day, and this is when it caught me off guard. Because I didn't consider myself as a gospel, you know, artist per se. But he said, okay, coming to the stage, we have Sister Priscilla. And I said, huh?
So
Yeah.
you're going to perform for us today, right?
I am, yes,
So
sir.
we're ready.
Y'all are ready for me?
Yes, we are.
Yay! I'm excited.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to take this. So the show was absolutely amazing. If you were watching, I just loved it. The host, they flowed through the questions with ease. They flowed through the topics. Like, the topics were really good. I wasn't expecting all that. And it was so comfortable, and it was so, like, up to date. And I got a little input and insight on actually what was going on in current events, because I didn't know about Tasha Cobbs and Nicki Minaj wanting to collaborate, or the word on the street that they possibly do want to collaborate. So that was interesting. Learned a lot of good things, a lot of interesting things, and it was very exciting. It's a good show.